Do I have to share my inheritance with my spouse? My name is Andrew Ayers. I'm an estate planning and business law attorney, and today we're going to look at what happens when you or your spouse gets an inheritance from a family member and you're not sure what to do with it next. So many years ago, I actually began my career working in family law. And when you're working in family law and you're dealing with divorces, one of the most common things you run into is if one of the spouses inherited money during the marriage, is that money considered their separate property or is it joint property of the marriage? Now, the first place you're going to want to look is to your local state laws to figure out what does your law say and how are the mechanics of this going to be handled. But generally, an inheritance from your family is considered separate property. Most states will treat it this way, but what happens is we have to be able to identify where those funds go. So when I've had clients who worked with me on prenuptial agreements, we normally have a provision that says what's in my name remains in my name as separate property. And what those clients can do is they've got that separate account that they brought into the marriage in their name solely, and if they receive an inheritance, they can put that inheritance either into the separate account or into another account solely in their name, with the view towards making sure that inheritance is kept separate and is not treated as marital property in the case that the parties get divorced. But if you don't have a prenuptial agreement, a lot of clients will ask, then what do I do if I have an inheritance coming? Well, you need to look at the situation the same way, and that is, am I going to be able to trace that inheritance? What we're looking at, what the big issue here is what's called commingling of assets. So let's say you and your husband have a joint bank account. You just have a joint checking account with Main Street Banking, and you receive an inheritance of $50,000. Instead of putting it into a separate account just for the inheritance or putting it into an account solely in your name, you put that $50,000 into your checking account. And let's say the day you put it in, you had $1,000 in your account. So now you have $51,000. Now that joint account, both you and your husband can draw on that money. You can spend it, you can do whatever you want to do with that checking account. And so let's say that $51,000, you buy some groceries for the week, you buy some gas, maybe you had to register for soccer lessons, and all of a sudden that balance of $51,000 maybe is down to like $49,000 and change. And then maybe you do some renovations for the house, but then you put in your paychecks from the week. So what's happened is that money has gone into a joint account that everyone has access to, and it's gone down below that $50,000 amount that was brought in from the inheritance. This is what's called commingling of assets, meaning you've taken that separate property and put it into a joint asset. And the challenge you've created is the ability to trace that money so that the court can definitely say that that $50,000 was safe the whole time. Now, in my example, we've got a problem, though, because we spent a little extra money and we went below $50,000. So let's say the lowest it dropped to was $47,000. If you're there making that argument that your inheritance is still separate, chances are you can show that $47,000 could still remain separate, but that $3,000 that you and your husband used as floating money in your joint checking account, chances are that's been considered commingled and is now a joint asset. So you've essentially gifted $3,000 of that inheritance to the marriage that is subject to being distributed as part of a divorce. So that's the key of what you want to be able to do is take that inheritance money and be able to trace it so that it's clear where it went and that you've kept it safe. Because if you just drop it in your joint account, chances are if it's been in there for a while, and let's say it's there for a year or two and you use it for some expenses, the court may find that you've made that separate property inheritance now a joint marital asset. And of course, the overarching issue with all this is what do you do with your spouse? So you receive an inheritance, and let's say it's a nice inheritance of $500,000, and you're going to fix up the house, you want to go on vacation, you have a lot of things you'd like to do, but you're not sure what those next steps are. I'm a big proponent of talking to your spouse. It's one thing to take that money and squirreling it away in your separate account to make sure that it never gets treated as marital property, and that's fine under law as a way to trace it. However, in most marriages, in good marriages where you have communication, talk to your spouse. Say, you know what, I got this inheritance. Let's fix up the deck. Let's go on that vacation to Mexico we've been talking about. Figure out what you guys want to do with the inheritance. Because technically it's your separate property, but it's something that can benefit both of you. It can make everybody happy. Maybe part of it's used for college expenses for your kids. So if you're not sure where to go with this inheritance, or you have an inheritance coming in and you want to make sure that you're protecting it, The next steps can be let's set up a legal strategy session. You can go to my website, andrewmayers.com. There's a red legal strategy session button on the front page. If you click that button, you're taken to my private calendar. We can set up a 15 or 20-minute phone call called a legal strategy session to discuss where you are in the process, what you're dealing with that inheritance, and give you some next steps to help you move forward. If you found this video to be insightful, hit that like button. And if you want more videos like this, you can subscribe to the channel and let me know what you'd like to hear about, what you'd like to see next. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in our next video.